All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, as we head into yet another debate week, Nate Silver actually had an interesting and important observation. So since August 1st, after he recovered from his mini swoon after the first debate, Biden has never been below 25.8 or above 28.6 international polling average, currently at 26.4. Now, it's a curious stat because it shows both durability and weakness. Now, on the one hand, no matter how many times he forgets what state he's in or angrily shouts down a voter or fails to complete one coherent sentence during his debate performances, there he is, top of the polls, strong and steady in spite of his often weak and wobbly performance. On the other, it's a position of real vulnerability. No one can be considered a strong frontrunner when they can't even grab 30% of the vote, especially at this point in the race as candidates like Kamala start to drop, leaving what voters they had up for grabs. Now, as I've been saying here too, the impact of Bloomberg should not be underestimated given his literally limitless funds, well-known profile, and relatively favorable media coverage. The prospect of him dropping Biden down a few points is real, although at this point he does seem to be hurting Buttigieg more. One person you know for sure is not threatened by Bloomberg, of course, is Bernie Sanders. Now, because of Biden's durability in the polls, however, a perception is set in that he's somehow untouchable, teflon, not really even worth trying to hit. I don't buy it, though. After all, let's not forget that Kamala's first debate hit on him did actually work. Conventional wisdom says that no one really cares about his past record, when in fact, he did take a hit over the way that Kamala used his anti-busing record to paint him as out of step with the modern party. The problem was that after she landed that initial blow, she herself wavered on her busing stance, essentially adopting the same position as Biden. But even more than that, the whole thing with the Instagram posts and the t-shirts came off as way too cute, too premeditated, practiced, and opportunistic rather than based on conviction. Swalwell and Castro and now even Warren have all taken a crack at going after Biden. But their attacks on him all suffer from similar flaws. Whatever their merits, and the merits of each line of attack vary greatly, they all come off as too strategic and planned out. The lesson from all of these failed attempts shouldn't be that attacks on Biden don't land at best or boomerang at worst. As Kamala's initial attempt shows, it's just really got to be done in the right way, and it's frankly not easy. Just consider some of the most effective debate attacks of the past couple cycles. They work because they have a sort of alchemy, 3 key ingredients that really make them stick and cause lasting damage. As they say, if you come at the king, you best not miss. So for any candidates looking to try on a Biden attack, listen up, because if you do miss, well, just ask Kamala, Castro, and Swalwell how well that goes. First, effective attacks always seem to be at least somewhat spontaneous, organic, spur of the moment. Now, say what you will about Trump. He may not have had a lot of substantive points to make or deep policy knowledge, but he is an absolute master of the stagecraft of debates. He's unpredictable, he's quick-witted, and he has a gift for cutting his opponents to their core. No one, of course, suffered more than the flat-footed, big-money darling Jeb. This moment was one of many devastating blows that exposed Jeb as weak-kneed and spineless.
Governor Bush, Mr. Trump has suggested that your views on immigration are influenced by your Mexican-born wife. He said that, quote, if my wife were from Mexico, I think I would have a soft spot for people from Mexico. Did Mr. Trump go too far in invoking your wife?
He did. He did. You're proud of your family, just as I am.
Correct.
To subject my wife into the middle of a raucous political conversation was completely inappropriate, and I hope you apologize for that, Donald.
Well, I have to tell you, I hear phenomenal things. I hear your wife is a lovely woman.
She is.
I
She's
don't
fantastic.
know her, and this
She
is
is
a total
absolutely the love of my life, and
mischaracterization of what
she's
I
right
said.
here, and why don't
Good.
you apologize
Good.
for her?
No, I won't
right
do that
now.
because I said nothing wrong, but I do hear
So
she's a lovely woman.
Jeb's attempt to attack Trump, please apologize to my wife, came off as both pre-planned and completely lame. Trump's counterpunch was the exact opposite, off the cuff and responsive to the moment with truly devastating effect. See also the time that Trump said maybe Jeb's mom should be running for president instead of him. The second necessary element of an effective attack is that it strikes at a core concern voters have with that candidate. Now, in my opinion, one of the greatest debate moments of all time was when Chris Christie just ended Marco Rubio live on stage before himself dropping out of the race and endorsing Trump. Let's relive that magic.
But I would add this, let's dispel with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
He is trying to change this country. He wants America to become more like the rest of the world. We don't want to be like the rest of the world. We want to be the United States of America. And when I'm elected president, this will become once again the single greatest nation in the history of the world.
I want the people at home to think about this. That's what Washington, D.C. does. The drive-by shot at the beginning with incorrect and incomplete information, and then the memorized 25-second speech that is exactly what his advisors gave him.
You didn't even want to go back. They had to shame you into going back. And then you stayed there for 36 hours, and then he left and came back to campaign.
See,
those are the facts. Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly
there it is,
what he's doing.
The memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's the reason why this campaign.
Marco actually was so rattled, he repeated the same lame line about Barack Obama 4 times in response to Christie's attack there. And it worked so incredibly well because the core concern about Rubio was that he wasn't ready for primetime, a sort of focus grouped and well-rehearsed pretty boy without much depth to match. Christie's attack felt organic and revealed exactly what voters feared most about Marco. Now, the third necessary element is mostly out of your control, frankly. Your adversary has to fail in their response. Your odds of catching your opponent off balance are obviously best if you come after them in a way they haven't anticipated. That's why usually the attacks that candidates have previewed in the debate run-up are rarely the ones that actually leave a mark. For example, Warren previewed attacks on Biden and Buttigieg in a major speech last week, going after them both for fantasizing about working with Republicans and for their big dollar fundraising. Previewing an attack is a good way to get the moderators to bring it up, but it's very unlikely you're going to catch your opponent sleeping. Probably the most effective punch thrown this cycle so far was Tulsi's attack on Kamala.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Now, honestly, there was no excuse for Kamala to not have a response here. Her record as a tough-on-crime prosecutor was an obvious point of criticism, but it just so happened she and her team had never really decided how she was going to handle that part of her past. She went back and forth between embracing it and distancing herself, so when Tulsi came at her, not only did she not have a response ready that day, but she really never figured out how to respond. Her already flagging campaign entered a tailspin from which it never recovered. All of this is to say that Biden isn't somehow uniquely impervious to any sort of critique. We've already seen in this campaign the potential for a well-executed blow to land. I do think, though, his long history with voters makes it a bit more difficult. Voters have a solidly favorable impression of him, and they feel like they know who he is. That's why it's so important that you nail all 3 elements, and in particular, that you come at him on the right issue, an area of core concern. What might that be? Well, with the debate looming, an impeachment trial in which his family will be front and center, I'm going to spend a little extra time on the former vice president this week. Stay tuned for some ideas and critiques I think both need to be made and may actually land. Biden can be beaten, but it's time for someone to step up and make the case directly with all the risks that entails. Sagar, I know why people have kind of laid off of him, because it can boomerang. If you don't execute it properly, it can end up taking you out and maybe just helping one of your opponents. But time is getting short here, and if things don't change where he stands today, he will end up as the nominee.
We need to see some more existentialism from some of these other candidates, which is that they don't understand that they're existentially doomed if the race continues on its track. And whenever you're in that position, you know, I used to study national security, and one of the things they teach you is that whenever you're going after your enemy, first of all, you need to look at them as an enemy, right? You know, going around Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, like, oh, Joe is my friend. Ain't gonna work out so well. But second is you go after your enemy's center of gravity. So what is the center of gravity for the Biden campaign? Electability. So what does that mean? You have to challenge Biden in a way that every voter on earth knows he will be challenged by Donald Trump and put him to the test. And I guarantee you, he's not going to pass that test. Every single time he gets angry, he demeans, he can't go off on the substance, he has never had a concrete answer on where he stands on the Hunter Biden issue, has never had a real accounting for his votes on the war in Iraq, he's never had had a real accounting for his votes on China. These are all things which Trump is going to wipe the floor with this man.
Yeah.
So you have to destroy the veneer of electability, but you can't destroy that if you don't look at him as an actual adversary. And there's too much congeniality on the stage. If Bernie believes that a revolution is what's needed, Biden is part of the thing that has to be overthrown here.
Right.
And you got to start acting like it.
That's right. And what do you care more about? Your friendship with Joe Biden and being uncomfortable on the debate stage, or the people that you say that you're fighting for? I mean, that's what it really comes down to. And look, there's kind of this mythology in the Democratic primary that Democrats don't like it when you go after each other. I don't buy that at all, especially this year, because they want to see that you've got a man or woman who is ready to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump. And as I showed in some of those clips, look, you may not think he's particularly substantive. He's not. He doesn't have deep policy knowledge on really anything, but he's very good at the show of politics. He's very unpredictable. You have no idea what he's going to come at you with. And he's good at cutting his opponents to the core. And people know that, and they want to make sure that whoever the nominee is going to be ready for that.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's like, this is your last shot, everybody. Elizabeth Warren's 70 years old. Bernie's 78. Biden is 76. This is it. This is your last shot at the apple. I mean, this is the title, right? Act like it. Act like you actually want something. All this congeniality is just going to lead to Joe Biden getting the nomination, and I think he's going to go down and fire against Trump.
I think that is entirely likely. All right, Sagar, looking forward to your radar. That's next.